Hey everyone, today we're discussing D23 2024 and what has changed in gaming for us and what made us change with video games. All this and more, this is Nerds with Mics. Hello and welcome everybody to episode 153 of Nerds with Mics. I am Travis, and today you may notice that Justin is not here. Justin has had a busy week this week, getting his kid back to school, and just work's been really crazy with him with the job that he has. But do not fear, today I'm joined by my great friend, Nick. Nick is recently, I would say within the past month or so, started listening to our podcast because he didn't know I had a podcast because it's not something I talk a lot about. But my girlfriend Amelia decided to let him in on the info.
She ratted you out.
She ratted me out, and he started listening. And well, lo and behold, look, now he's just on the episode. It was such a quick turnaround time. So I'm gonna go ahead and. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and kind of let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Wow, my goodness. Well, hello. My name is Nick, and I'm a person who knows things to say, sort of, sometimes, like now. Really good example. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I have never been good at introducing myself. I don't know what to say about myself. Do you have any leading questions that I can respond to, Travis?
Why don't you start by telling our listeners what are some of the hobbies and things you're into? Let me just we'll start off with an interview and then we'll just get into it. How about that?
Cool. We'll just try to avoid shedding tears as your subscribers dwindle. But let's see. I like to play video games. I like to watch movies. So it makes sense that I would listen to the podcast. I like music. I try to play some music a little bit. I like reading. I like food,
You are
all those really
I've witnessed that. Yeah, for sure. Well, enough about you. We don't want, listen, we're going to learn a lot. Well, no, honestly, we're going to learn a lot about you by some of the things we're going through today about kind of what helped you form your taste in video games and when you really started to get into gaming. We're going to learn some of the things that you've been up to, which we'll also tell our listeners and viewers kind of about you yourself. So really, I don't want to give too much away by asking interview questions because we're gonna get into some of this stuff. So you probably are familiar with the format of the show. So we like to always start by talking about what we've been up to. I notice we both have a cocktail. You're drinking wine. I'm having an old fashioned. Just trying to ease the nerves a little bit. But all is well. So I'm actually, since you're the guest of honor, I'm actually going to kick it over to you and have you run us through kind of what you've been up to lately in regards of, anything, games, movies, TV shows, whatever.
All right, sweet. I mean, you honor me. I will try my best to rise to the occasion. So I know that y'all tend to talk a lot about the games that you've been playing, the shows and movies that you've been watching. So in that spirit, I recently got myself Elden Ring, which I have been looking forward to playing for a pretty long time. Even though I'm a little surprised at myself for that because I've dipped my toe into some From Software games before, and I don't think they're for me because I just I kind of suck at video games and they just kick my ass all over the place. So I think the fact that George R.R. Martin was involved with Elden Ring really sealed the deal for me. So I got it. I started playing it, and I tried to not, just start crying every time a very weak enemy immediately thrashed me. And I managed to make a little bit of incremental progress. I was pretty proud of myself. There's this spoilers for the first 15 minutes of the game. There's this big creature that jumps down from a ledge.
Oh yeah.
And it only killed me 40 or 50 times before I finally was able to kill it. So I was like, all right, here we go. Making progress. So then I found another boss and it killed me immediately and I haven't gone back, but I intend to. so yeah, I've been playing Elden Ring. That's been pretty cool. Been playing some Mark of the Ninja, really into that. And I just started Little Nightmares 2, and it's already freaking me out, and I love it. So those have been the main games that
I've
I've been
heard those
playing.
games are great.
Yeah, have you played all of them?
Not the Little Nightmares. That's the one I was specifically alluding to. But I've heard those games are great, but I have not played them. I do like that style of game, like Limbo and some of those other type of games, and Call to the Lamb and those. But I have not had a chance to check out Little Nightmares. Did you play the first one, or did you just immediately go to the second one?
I started with the first one. I think I found out about it because this one friend of mine who like watches a lot of YouTube was watching. If you've ever heard of the YouTube channel Drawfee, two of them that are in a relationship have their own like Let's Play YouTube channel, and I think they were playing Little Nightmares, and she caught that episode and was telling me about it, and I had never heard of it before, but I checked out the first one, and it scared the shit out of me, and it was so cool. And it's like, it's great. I love games like that, like Limbo and Inside, like you were mentioning. I haven't heard of Cult of the Lamb, so I'm gonna have to check that out. But like, yeah, I just get so into those really kind of quick games that you can still really sink your teeth into. And I've been on a real side scroller bent lately. Kind of just like gotten really into sort of, I don't know if minimalist is the right word, but like really scaled down types of games.
Yeah, just easy access. Just like you can hop in for a few minutes, like 10, 15 minutes if you don't have very much time and feel like you can get something done and you can easily get out of it. Not a big commitment. It's not a big time suck, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I've just been gobbling that up. And so, but like Little Nightmares was like particularly impactful. And so I highly recommend it. And I mean, I barely made it into the second one so far, but I mean, already it just has that undercurrent of tension that it manages to pull off so well. And so I'm really excited to continue with it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so what else you been up to outside of video games?
I'm like really behind the curve on everything. I mean, like Elden Ring came out like 2 or 3 years ago or something, and I'm only just getting into it. So like I know that season 4 of The Boys came out, I'm sure a number of months ago, and I've only just started getting into it, but I've been enjoying it. I have always liked The Boys, and so I'm still I think it's still doing a great job. I haven't seen Deadpool 3 yet, but I've been trying to like rewatch the first 2 in anticipation of Deadpool 3. And like I've also been like, I've started like really kind of drifting over into that whole thing of just having like a nice easygoing TV show in the background whenever you're just sort of doing stuff around the house. And for me, that's been Schitt's Creek lately. And it's just been so nice. It's like, it's such a sweet show. I'm getting close to the end, and so it's getting sort of emotional, and I'll be like doing the dishes with a tear in my eye, and it's just been a sweet, good time. How about you?
Yeah,
What have you been watching lately?
So last week, I think I mentioned on the episode, I had COVID last week, so I was pretty zapped. So I actually didn't play as many video games as I normally do. So I decided to so the week before last, I was actually in Raleigh, helping Maxwell, former member of the podcast / best friend, not former best friend, but you know what I mean. We were
now.
yeah. So we were. So I was helping him run his booth at GalaxyCon, selling artwork, meeting some of the fans from his channel, stuff like that. And then also, while I was there, just every year I've helped him with that. Just so many people have come up and talked about how much they love Bob's Burgers, because he has Bob's Burgers artwork and stuff, and it's always usually a pretty big seller. And I'm always that guy that's like, I've never actually seen this show. I just don't know if it would be my cup of tea. However, I started watching it, and I am already, because obviously where I haven't been feeling well, I just kind of wanted to put something on.
Yeah, that's like the perfect sickness show. I mean, it's great for a lot of things, but like that would be such a comfort when you're feeling like crap.
Yeah. So I started it, and I'm already almost to season 4.
But damn, so you watched 4 seasons in 1 week?
Well, the first 2 seasons are only 13 episodes a piece.
That's fair.
And they're only like 20 some minute episodes, but it's but yeah, I'm almost. But I think when they get to season 3, that's when the 22 to 23 episode season starts. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to slow down at this point,
Yeah.
because the first 2 seasons were so short. But I tell you, it's really good. I mean, it's super absurd, the show at times. However, it always has some way of circling back around and just having good feelings at the end of the show. Like some of the shenanigans that happens, you're like, I don't know where this is going to go and how this is going to end with some sort of like good moral message or feel good, but it somehow always manages to do it. And I just don't understand how that show works, to be honest with you.
That's a really good way of putting it. I also don't really get how it works, but it does so well. I've got to admit, it shocks me that you were like aware of its existence and you were sitting there thinking like, I'm not sure if this is for me. I mean, like that's like fair.
Because I've never been a big Simpsons person, and I just automatically just lumped it into the Simpsons. And I think that's why I just passed on it, is because I'm like, the Simpsons just never really been for me, or something like South Park has never been for me. Just, it's really taken like a lot for an animated show to grab me. So I just honestly just kind of lumped it in there with just like everything else. It's kind of like the Simpsons. And I couldn't have been more wrong, honestly. I'm glad I was wrong.
You're goddamn right. It show's amazing.
Yeah, I know. And I told Amelia, and she didn't believe me at first, that she is Tina to a T. And she was offended at first, but then as she started to watch the show, she was like, I honestly, the more and more I watch, the more and more I realize I'm like Tina. And I don't know if it's because she likes boy butts or what, but
I did not realize that Amelia had a thing for boy butts. I mean, who doesn't have a thing for boy butts? We all kind of do.
That's
We're all
fair.
a little Tina.
Yeah, we are. All of us are a little Tina. That's right. But
I mean, it's funny though, because like when I first met you, like I was saying to Amelia, and like, this is based primarily on your lovely accent, but like I kept hearing, because like I think I had met you like maybe once or twice at that point, and neither had been for a particularly long time. So like the mental image that I had of you was still coalescing in my mind. But I do remember specifically saying to Amelia one time, like, dude, you're dating Zeke. Like, and that's so great for you. Like, Zeke's amazing, but he's your boyfriend.
That's hilarious.
I mean, like, I just get such joy whenever Zeke is on screen and says any goddamn thing. I'm just like, talk forever, please. Like, I want that. And that's, it's very easy to listen to this podcast for a number of reasons, but one of them is the dulcet tones coming from that beautiful face of yours.
I never really thought about Zeke, but that's a good call. I think because honestly, I don't hear myself the way that others probably hear me. Cause obviously it's just not anything that I pick up on. Mm-hmm. I've tried to tell people, oh, I don't have an accent, and people are like, you're crazy. And I think also too, I think sometimes it comes through more so than others, just depending on how tired I am, I think too.
Oh, yeah, fair.
My cat's trying to mess me up. Get out of here, cat. But yeah, so Bob's Burgers. But the 2 games I have been playing, I've been playing Final Fantasy 14, which is no surprise. I've been talking about it for months at this point. So online Final Fantasy 14 I've been playing, and then also I have also started Elden Ring. I am level 40.
Oh my God.
However, I have only beat one main boss, and that's it, because I've been trying to like power level, and then that way I can go into these fights. I found a few places by mistake that I've used to just power level, because I was in areas I shouldn't have been in. So I was just using that while I could to power level. Yeah. And then also I'm a big person that I like to like scrape the map and try to uncover the whole map before I start doing anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like level 42, I think, but I've only beat one main boss. So
I mean, kudos to you. Like, I think that's the main boss that is currently like destroying me repeatedly and my soul. So, I mean, the fact that you've beaten it.
Did you get to the boss that is the one that's on the bridge?
Yeah, it's the one that looks like
you come through and the gate drops behind you and he jumps down from the gate, I think. Like, he didn't come through the gate, but he like jumps down onto the bridge, I think.
It's the one. It's the first one that talks to you. It's the one that looks like you,
right?
Like, the like demigod or whatever whose arm you steal in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
I feel like it looks like if that and the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke had like a blissful love child. But
Is
it
it the
got
one that
really,
has multiple arms or no?
that's a good point. I think it does, because
Yeah.
it has like tooled me in such a wide variety of ways that it has to have an abnormal number of limbs to do so.
Yeah, because like if I'm not mistaken, right before you go through the gate, you get the option to summon somebody on the right hand side before you go into that fight, I think.
Yeah, I think that's like
Yeah.
where the game introduces that mechanic to you.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
the only
you're
boss.
rubbing in
Yeah.
the fact that I don't have any friends, so why are you
But
doing this?
well, the only way that I beat him is I summoned one person, and then I also had one of those summons. It's like a spell that you cast, but I somehow picked up a spell where it summons like 4 or 5 just low powered, just random people or whatever. That's just like
Oh,
NPCs.
nice.
So I went through and I spawned the guy at the little blood stain. He went in with me, and then as soon as I walked in, I dropped my spell. So there was 6 people. I let them attack him enough to get aggro, and then I would just stand back and just cast. But I'm a caster and I'm not a melee character, so that probably also helped as well. So
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah. But outside of that, that is pretty much all I've been up to. Outside of that, anything else that you've been up to?
I discovered, this isn't really something, well, I guess it's kind of been something that I've been up to, but begrudgingly.
It
I
can
was
also be life events. It doesn't have to be totally related to nerd
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. This was definitely a life event. I was diagnosed with celiac disease, which was a real shock to me because I love pizza and I never want to let it go. But yeah, it was really a shock because like I'm in my early 30s and I'd never had an issue with gluten. And frankly, I still am like a little skeptical of the diagnosis. One of my uncles is he's a retired doctor, and so he was helping me interpret the results. Basically, like I went to see my primary care physician. She ran some tests on me. I think this was a blood test. And in any case, like the test was called, like looking through the, results through the online portal or whatever, it was the transglutaminase IgA test. And apparently the normal levels for your results are supposed to be between 0 and 20, I think. And I think mine was 420. And I hadn't been smoking weed lately. So I was like, honestly, I saw that and I like raised an eyebrow. I didn't know what it meant. And like quickly Googled it and it said, blah, 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 celiac. And I was like, all right, whatever. It's obviously not that. I'll look more into it later. But then I was reaching out to my uncle for some help with it. And he was like, yeah, it seems like you have celiac actually. And then, from there, he was saying like, I should go see a gastroenterologist and probably I would have to get like some kind of endoscopy or whatever. But I haven't actually pursued that yet because it just apparently would cost such an ungodly amount of money. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll just assume that I have celiac and avoid gluten. And, eventually once I like feel like a bit more up for it, I can try to pursue that further. But at the same time, I've around that time I had been experiencing some abdominal discomfort that lasted for a few days. Like at first I thought it was just some bad food. I think I had drunk some sour milk and I was like, all right, well, this will be done within 24 hours. And then like 72 hours, I was still feeling it a little bit. So, I associated that with the diagnosis, but it hadn't been because I had been eating gluten lately, or at least that's what I thought. And then I felt it again, kind of all of a sudden a few weeks later. Also hadn't been eating gluten. And, I've like dipped my toe into a little bit of bread lately and it seems like it's felt fine. So I'm still trying to like play it safe, but I'm still a little skeptical. So who the hell knows what's going on? But apparently people have to treat me special now because I have big bad celiac disease.
Yeah, that's real unfortunate. Honestly, I couldn't imagine having to live with that. I think I would rather be that though than allergic to peanut butter. If I couldn't eat peanut butter, I don't know what I'd do, to be honest with you.
No, I completely agree. I low key had a roommate that was allergic to peanut butter and was just like, do you need to be alive? I don't know if we need you in the human race anymore.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
great. But like, yeah, it's that I agree. Like that would be way harder for me. Like the celiac transition, fortunately, I mean, as a lot of people have pointed out, and they're absolutely right, this is the best time in history to not be able to eat bread because there's so many alternatives. But yeah, peanut butter, it's the one and only. You can't give that up.
Maybe it's your body seeking revenge on you for coming off your vegan diet.
Wow, that cuts deep. And you know what? You might be exactly right. The guilt is very real, and I deserve that. I totally deserve that.
Well, you'll have to keep me posted on how that journey goes with you. I'll just know that we will not be partaking in pizza anymore, at least in moderation. Moderation.
Sadly, we won't, or at least, I mean, I guess we're not counting the times where you just like tie me up in your dungeon and eat pizza in front of me. But
yeah, I will. Let me put you onto something though. Do you ever shop at Aldi's?
I haven't lately, but not because I don't love Aldi's. So,
well, I think you may have partaken during your salsa dancing. Aldi's makes a really good cauliflower crust pizza.
Oh, okay, yeah. Shit, that was from Aldi?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Aldi's nuts. But yes, no, on the real, it is from Aldi's. Yes.
Listen, I didn't realize we were also including favorite food groups on here. Or else.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get too much further off the rails, I will mention one thing I did get from Aldi's yesterday. They have a breakfast pizza that is sausage, cheese, and gravy on a biscuit crust, and it's a pizza. It was.
You kind of lost me at gravy. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was on board, and like the biscuit crust, I don't know. And like, hold on, are we talking like we're talking about like Southern biscuit, not like British biscuit, right?
Correct.
And not like Limp Biscuit either.
No, not hot dog flavored water. None of that.
I mean, I don't know. I definitely want to
take
try
on sausage biscuits and gravy, essentially, but it's a pizza.
Yeah. I definitely try it. I don't know. That's
you try anything once. If you like it, maybe twice.
Right
yeah. Well, now that we've went into the weeds, talked about what we've been up to, which has been a great conversation thus far. Let's get real quick. Yeah, I know. Real quick, just some news that I wanted to go over real quick, and honestly, I'm going to breeze through it because it's a ton of information. But we recently, did you see any of the D23 releases from Disney? I don't know if you kept up with any of that stuff.
I typically don't. Like, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I didn't. If you had asked me what D23 was like 30 minutes ago, I probably would have been like, it's the sequel to Eminem's band minus one member. But I did watch all of the trailers that I could get my hands on that you've included here in the notes. And some of those, it was just like YouTube videos of people clearly holding up their phones in front of the TV, being like, this is D23 or whatever. And I was just like, I could never see myself enjoying being at an event like that. And frankly, I didn't feel myself enjoying any of the announcements that it seemed that they were unleashing. But, maybe this is great news for a lot of people, and I'm very happy for them.
Wow. Maybe I should just cut this section altogether. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's get into it. Let's dive deep.
So we got a full trailer release for Moana 2. That movie is slated to come out November 27th. I even think The Rock showed up. He was doing his typical Hawaiian dance and whatnot, which is pretty cool.
Like at D23, he was doing that?
Yeah, he was doing that in front of everyone. Was
this like, when you say like the typical Hawaiian dance, is this like sort of a form of the haka kind of thing, like the New Zealand haka? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's not the Haktua, but it is the I'm trying to think because he's not. Is he Samoan?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's whatever part of whatever part of what that culture is what him and Jason Momoa, they're part of the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're island folks. But yeah, it was that dance, which is really, really cool. We also got the live action trailer. Disney is on this kick where they're taking all these old animated things and making live action things out of it. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, I guess it brings it to a new generation, but it also low key feels like a cash grab. Not a big fan of that, but
100%.
But we got the live action trailer for Snow White, which is slated to come out March 21st, 2025. They're also doing a live action Lilo and Stitch movie, which is summer 2025.
That was disappointing. Like Snow White, like, I mean, yeah, even as like clueless as I am, I was aware of the like live action cash grab, as you put it. I mean, like, I completely agree with that description. So like Snow White, I wasn't excited about it, but it didn't surprise me. Lilo and Stitch was a bit of a gut punch because I feel like that movie is perfect. And I'm not gonna lie, like I saw the little teaser that they did, and like Stitch looks surprisingly good. I would have expected something pretty ugly a la live action Sonic. But the Stitch did look like he was cute and it was very well animated. But at the same time, like, I just didn't care. There's just no need for it, and like, I hear what you're saying about like bringing it to a new audience, but I remember like, I remember watching like the Aristocats when I was growing up, and that movie's like from the 50s or 60s or something. And, like, you can just show them the original movie. And in the meantime, you could come up with something like cool and interesting and original, maybe.
An original. Yeah, exactly. Snow White, when it was first announced and there was some first images and I think video leaked from that, it got a very similar amount of hate like Sonic did but I think it was for the animation that they used for the Seven Dwarfs. So then they went back, and it's basically been in production hell for the past 2 years, and now we're finally seeing another trailer for it.
Interesting.
Now, what I am kind of excited for is they're making a new Incredibles 3. I thought the first two Incredible movies were great. I didn't necessarily
Did you think they were incredible?
The first one for sure was incredible. The second one was just good enough to pass. There was also that spinoff movie as well, but I didn't watch that one. One that I am not sure how I feel about, because it's the 5th movie in the series, is Toy Story. The only thing that I think is kind of cool with the concept of this movie is the premise is that like Buzz, Andy, and the gang are trying to prevent their new kid from turning into an iPad kid. So it deals with the whole like problem of like kids being entertained by technology and not being able to disconnect from like electronics and tablets and stuff like that. So the movie is going to basically center around them preventing their kid from becoming a tablet kid, essentially an iPad kid or whatever. So the premise of that sounds interesting. And then obviously Frozen 3, 2027. Toy Story, I forgot to mention, summer 2026. Incredibles 3 is to be dated. And then a movie that I'm surprised we hadn't got a follow-up sooner is Zootopia, because the first one was actually pretty good.
I agree.
That one is slated to come out in November 26th of 25. This one piqued my interest because I don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's an original story or for some sort of lore that exists already. But Star Wars: The Skeleton Crew. I know you're a semi-Star Wars fan. I don't know if you watched the trailer for this yet or not.
I did check out the trailer, before we started recording,
but oh yeah, you must have added that because I was thinking that, but I didn't write it down. But it's about 4 kids lost in the galaxy trying to find their way home. Jude Law is one of the main characters. He is actually a Force user, and it actually takes place during the New Republic era, which is the years after Return of the Jedi. So when, it's that period where they're kind of go into hiding and there's not like a ton of them. But you had made a note, because I had thought about it when I was watching the trailer, but I didn't make the note. But it's basically the Goonies, but Star Wars. Are you a big Goonies fan?
I'm not. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, like, I only saw it for the first time, I think, in like late high school or college or something. So I didn't have the nostalgia factor of watching it growing up as a kid. I was like definitely the right demographic, and like everybody that I went to school with would constantly talk about the Goonies. But so, I saw it and I was like, I don't hate this, but I definitely don't love this. And, for me, it's just kind of like another movie. But, it's one of those that I kind of regret not being in love with, if I'm being completely honest.
No, and that's fair because Amelia just watched it for the first time last night. That's why I mentioned that.
Oh my goodness, interesting.
Yeah. So, but I am kind of excited to see this, especially if it's original. What I don't want them to do is, did you watch? I assume you probably didn't watch The Acolyte.
Correct. I've seen the honest trailer for The Acolyte, but I haven't seen anything beyond that.
Without getting into spoiler territory, the one thing that I will say that I hope they don't do with this movie is I don't need them to tie it into an existing character that already is like in the Skywalker saga anywhere. I don't need you to tie it in so that I know where it is. Like, I feel like a lot of times when they get into these one-offs that tries to be its own thing, they feel like they have to tie it into some character that everybody knows. I do not want them to do that with this.
I completely agree. Like one of my friends, my friend David, he introduced me to KOTOR, also embarrassingly late, like only maybe like
good.
5 years ago. Yeah, exactly. And like he keeps saying that is like the best Star Wars story that exists, and it's not even like, I mean, it's like part of the what do they call it now, the Legends universe or something.
Yeah,
but I completely agree with that description, and it is like just completely removed from the main storyline. And I really didn't like how in the most recent trilogy they eventually circled it around to still just like centering on the like Skywalker dynasty, and that they brought Palpatine back and everything. That really lost me. And like you mentioned, like how I'm a Star Wars fan, like that is still true, but it feels like it's less and less true. And I used to be the biggest Star Wars fan. And I feel like just with recent developments, and like, I mean, honestly, it feels like it's kind of since Disney took it over, like I've just been losing interest in it. And even the ones that are good, like, I liked the first couple seasons of Mandalorian and I liked Andor, but like, I wasn't even despite the fact that they were good, like I wasn't as enthusiastic about them as I would have been, for sure.
Right. Because I remember at that cookout we were at, you and I had to defend Phantom Menace to a bunch of hooligans.
I know, it's still my favorite just bar none, the greatest Star Wars movie of all time.
I will say my only complaint with that movie is Darth Maul got taken out like a punk.
It's true. He deserved better.
I mean, because he had the high ground. And if anything teaches you in the prequels is if you have the high ground, never make the move. But somehow it worked for Obi-Wan, and I don't understand it.
I know. The fact that he himself lied to Anakin's face that like he couldn't do it because of their geographical positioning. It's like, buddy, the only reason you're alive is because that's not true.
Exactly right. He's like, I'm never going to be the one to fall on this side of the trap ever. We also got Agatha All Along. I don't know if you watched WandaVision or not. I don't know if you watched.
I think I watched all but the last episode of WandaVision.
Well, that's fine, because the last episode, I mean, you would need to watch the last episode if you were going to watch Agatha All Along. But the last episode, I think, was the weakest out of all of them. So, but this is supposed to be what happens with the events after WandaVision.
Right.
So we won't get into spoilers there, but it does look cool because it looks like a straight like horror type show.
Yeah.
So it looks pretty interesting. It starts with Agatha being a detective solving a murder, and it looks like the person that was murdered was Wanda. It just looks real.
Interesting.
It just looks real interesting. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, because I appreciated how WandaVision presented itself. Like I really liked the sort of like varying decades format of it. But at the same time,
back
like
to how she dealt with trauma as a kid and like what her family did. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was like I feel bad that it just like didn't grab me, because I really respect the concept and the execution. I think a large part of why WandaVision fell kind of flat for me was like, I think in the last episode, Justin was kind of saying something similar, that like after Endgame, I just was like kind of done with Marvel. And not even because I was like over it. It was just like such a good I enjoyed that saga and its conclusion so much that I was just like, I'm in my refractory period. I don't need this anymore. Like, let me just sort of wallow and appreciate this. And
Yeah.
maybe in like quite a few years, I'll be ready to kind of come back to it. But like, they immediately started like pumping out new content and driving it down our throats. And so like with WandaVision, I was like, man, this actually seems like a really cool premise. But even watching it, I was just like, for some reason, it's just not grabbing me. And so like the character that, oh my goodness, I can't remember the actor's name, but she's great, and I love her especially in Parks and Recreation. I think she did a really great job as her character in WandaVision. But something about her in that show, just like it didn't grab my interest. But I was surprised, like so I hadn't heard of Agatha all along, and when I saw it in the notes, I was like, oh, I don't know anything about this, and I Googled it, and I saw that it was sort of like the sequel to WandaVision. I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, okay, I'm clearly not going to care about this. But then I started watching it, and I was like, okay, this actually does look kind of cool. Like, this seems like a cool team that they've put together. It's got that vibe that you were describing, and it, maybe I don't have the
kind of reminds me of like Evil Dead a little bit, but more like campy.
Yeah. It gave me like Sabrina the Teenage Witch vibes.
Oh yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah. So I could see myself actually enjoying that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and then some other shows that we saw snippets of. Well, we didn't see snippets of, but I think they show snippets of there, unless you saw snippets from somebody uploading it online. You saw a snippet for the Fantastic Four First Steps, which is going to be the new Fantastic Four movie. And then also Daredevil Born Again, which I'm excited for Daredevil. I thought that series was great. I'm kind of curious to see where they take it since it's been so long since that show's been out. And then we also saw they finally named Avatar 3. I don't know if you're an Avatar fan, but they named it Avatar Fire and Ash, which is slated to come out December 19th, 2025. Are you an Avatar fan? Have you seen the Avatar movies?
I have seen the Avatar movies, and I like them, but I definitely don't love them. And I don't really know what that is. I think a large part of it is because in my head, I don't really like James Cameron for some reason. I don't know if I can justify that. He just seems like a bit of a prick based on the very little that I know about him. And I think that's like somehow that comes through to me in the movies. I just really get the sense that he thinks that they're the greatest movies of all time. And I'm like, they're cool, like, and they're impressive, but they're cool and they're impressive. And that's sort of where the line is drawn.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll tell you that James Cameron's best work was probably Alien. He did the first Alien movie.
He did the second Alien movie, and
I've heard
that, and I have only seen the first Alien movie once, and no other entries in that. Well, I've seen Prometheus, if that counts, but like, I really want to watch Aliens, especially because I've heard such good things, and like, I do appreciate, like, I'm a fan of James Cameron and his work it's sort of a bullshit opinion that I have. I'm not going to lie, but like, he makes good movies.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to go see the new Alien movie coming out, but I'll probably have to see that one by myself because Amelia will not probably partake in that. She's not big on the scary genre, so we'll see.
That's fair. You and I can go see it together, and we'll just like cuddle each other and get through it together.
What we need to do is we need to watch Alien 1 and Alien 2 because this one takes place, I believe, between Alien 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Which I'm really excited about. One that I'm kind of excited about, but also when it's been so long since an original movie's been out and they try to do a sequel, I always get nervous because I feel like they try to capture lightning in a bottle many, many years down the road. Freakier Friday 2, which is obviously the follow-up to Freaky Friday, which is a great movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. That's supposed to come out sometime in 2025. Hoping it's good. Not going to hold my breath. I mean, I am happy that Lindsay Lohan has kind of had a resurgence a little bit in her career because there for a while it was not so great, with personal battles and whatnot. But I always like a good redemption story. I mean, think about it. If we wouldn't have had a redemption story for Robert Downey Jr., right, we would have never gotten Iron Man,
A very good example.
I am really excited about the third installment of Tron. I like Tron 1 and 2 more so than the original, because the original one was like late 70s, so it's just kind of painful to watch. But the second one is The second one's a masterpiece. The soundtrack done by Daft Punk, the visuals, just everything about it. But again,
sumptuous. Like I completely agree. I saw the trailer and I had never heard of Tron before. The name sounded vaguely familiar. I couldn't have told you at all what it was, but like I remember that when it came out and I got so pumped and I was so fulfilled watching it. I was just like, this movie is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm excited for the new one. Once again, kind of concerned by how long it's been since the second one's been out, but we'll see how it goes. That's supposed to be out, honestly, not that long from now. It'll be almost a year out. It's October 10th, 2025. Back into the live actions, there was a new trailer for Mufasa, The Lion King, which is obviously
the live action.
yeah, live action. So this is obviously Mufasa's story. Let's be honest, Mufasa's a badass. I hope this movie does great. Honestly, the last live action Lion King, it was pretty good. James Favreau. Yeah, James Favreau did it, which he's the one that's behind a lot of the good Star Wars content we've got. Disney Plus wise, some of that Star Wars, like Mandalorian and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
He does good work. Something I'm interested to see, because we haven't seen this character since the second Black Panther movie, is Ironheart, which is the girl that supposedly takes over for Iron Man. She didn't really have much going on in the second Black Panther movie, but she's getting her own. Now, this is going to be a Disney Plus show and not a movie. Sometimes that's great because you get more out of it than you would in a 2-hour movie. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm kind of excited about that. A show that I'm really excited about because I like the first season, and I don't know if you watched the first season of Andor, but season 2 of Andor is coming out. That'll be Disney Plus 2025 at some point. But the first season of Andor was incredible. One of my favorite Star Wars movies is Rogue One. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Evidently, this season will lead all the way up to the events of Rogue One is where this is going to go. Okay, so I'm really excited. And Alan, is it Alec Tooney or no, Alan Tunick? Yeah, maybe that's his name. He's the one that voices the robot that's in Rogue One.
Oh, Alan Tudyk. Yeah.
So
the guy from Firefly and like everything.
And he's going to make a return in this show. So he'll be in here as the voice again. Okay. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. And then Disney Plus, May 22nd of 2026, The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is going back to the original formula of the first season, where it's basically just them two going on quests together, which is cool. Nice. I just hope they know when to call that show quits. And I'm afraid they're getting to the point where it's just getting to be a little too much. But we'll see how it goes.
I saw a snippet that Jon Favreau intended for it to just go on and on and on, and I cringed when I saw that because I was like, no, this shouldn't last longer than 4 seasons tops or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a problem when you run into those movies where each episode is a quest with very little movement in the overall plot, is you can continue to do it if there's every episode's a one-off, you know what I mean? Yeah, and it's cool, and it's easy to fall into a trap of just nonsense to be nonsense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very hard to achieve character growth, I feel, in those sorts of formats. And for me anyway, and I get the sense for a lot of people, that's the most sort of engaging aspect of a show is watching characters sort of evolve. And yeah.
Agreed for sure. And then let's see here. And then real quick, just some other things. So I didn't watch the first season of it, but Percy Jackson and the Olympians season 2 will be out Disney Plus 2025. I saw the movies, but I did not see the show. I don't know if you watched the show or not, but I did not.
The only Percy Jackson media that I've consumed is the first book, and I liked it. It was a long time ago, but I have no opinion on the rest of it. I just am very uninformed about it. Yeah.
And then real quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. So these are the changes that are actually coming to the park. Now, this is Disney World, which is the one in Florida, not Disneyland. I'm only covering the Florida ones because it's the one closest to us. That's all I cared about. But in Magic Kingdom, they're actually getting a villain's land, which I think is pretty cool. So a land where everybody can celebrate the villains of Disney, which is neat. Frontierland is being reimagined with cars because who doesn't need more Mater in their life or more Kachows, I guess. I don't. They're also going to be having a pirates themed tavern. So if you're down to plunder that booty, you'll have a place to do that in Magic Kingdom.
I'm always down to plunder your booty.
Yeah, always. That's the secret, Cap. I'm always down to plunder a booty. And then
wait, real quick,
Disney,
is this general pirates themed, or is this like specifically Pirates of the Caribbean themed?
It just says pirates themed, so I'm going to assume maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
And then in Disney Hollywood Studios are actually adding a Monsters Inc. land, which will begin construction in 2025, which is pretty cool. Monsters Inc. Cool. It's a classic. Yeah. I think they'll even have an area where the doors and stuff are like in a row, like going and moving and stuff, which is kind of neat.
Nice.
In Disney's Animal Kingdom, they're going to have a Tropical Americas, which will be replacing Dino Land. I've never been to Disney, so a lot of this is irrelevant to anything I know. In Epcot, they're going to be a newly imagined test track, which I imagine is some sort of ride that's a driving thing, I guess. I don't know. And then the thing I'm more interested in is a new spaceship Earth inspired lounge. Epcot, I feel like if I went there, the only thing I'd want to do is go to that and then also drink around the world. Those are the two big things I'd want to do. Have you been to Disney yourself?
I feel like when I was a kid, my parents took me to some Disney theme park or other. I know that I went to Magic Kingdom. My mom took me and my sister when I was like we were still kids, but we were a little bit older. And like, I remember we saw like animals with night vision goggles one time, and like, it was cool. Like it was a cool experience for sure. It was a zoo that you like stayed in overnight. So like, I don't think my mind was blown, and I don't really have a memory of any other Disney theme park really. And like honestly, the closest that I can come is just like watching Jenny Nicholson videos on YouTube with her like reviews of various Disney theme parks, and those are really fun. And I kind of want to go based off of that, but unfortunately, I have very little context for that aspect of Disney's offerings.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never been. At some point I'd like to go, but I'm not in a super big hurry because I would be going as an adult and I don't like kids that much. So, I'm not in a huge hurry.
Plus, it's just like, it's very expensive from what I understand.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
It really is, because I can think about all the other things I could do and have more fun for a cheaper cost.
Exactly. I think for me, a big difficulty would be like, I think I'd struggle to enjoy it in the moment because I would know how much I paid for it. And I'd just be like, I think my anxiety would crank up from the moment I like clicked pay or whatever. And then I think I think I just wouldn't actually enjoy it as much.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right. Well, that's all the notable news. I mean, really, it was just a ton of Disney stuff that if you find value in Disney, I just wanted to pass along. If your name's Nick and you don't really care, then it's not for you. Just the Nick that's on this show, not necessarily a Nick that's listening, so don't take offense to all the Nicks out there.
Why did you waste my and every other Nick's time? We're just we could have been living our lives, but here we are with all this, random Disney crap that we don't care about.
Well, let's get into something you do care about. Let's talk about video games. How about that? What a segue. What a segue.
That was beautiful. That was so well done.
That? Segues are only good if you don't call them out. I tend to always call it out. So I just in turn ruined the segue by mentioning how good it was. And then I consider my job done. So one of the big topic that we wanted to get in today, for the first 48 minutes of this podcast, you would have thought that the main topic was either celiac or, Disney, but you would be mistaken. The actual main topic today is actually, we want to talk about video games. We want to talk about what changed our views on video games. And the way that I kind of approach this, and Nick, I'm not sure if you approach it the same way, is like what moments in gaming changed the way that I felt differently about gaming, or if there were particular games that I played that maybe had me experience something in a way that made me think about games differently. I kind of addressed it from both ends, but also a lot of it is like what roles games played at certain points in my life is the biggest way that I kind of looked at it, because like my taste in gaming has changed like as I've gotten older, and what gaming was for me when I was in my younger childhood isn't the same thing that gaming is for me now. So honestly, a lot of what mine is going to be about is just kind of like what it is to age as a gamer, is kind of like how my view has changed of video
Yeah.
games in general, and what purpose they're serving for me. I don't know if that's similar to how you approached yours or not. How did you
It's
approach yours? Like,
I approached
get
it
into
in
the thick
a
of it, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It was similar. I think this was sort of one of the angles that you described. Like for me, the way I interpreted that was like immediately I thought of certain like chapters in my life when video games were sort of more prominent, um, and and kind of use that as like a jumping off point.
Well, let's start by talking, because it looks like we have a similar amount of bullet points. So what I would like to do is maybe I'll do one bullet point, then you do one, and then we'll just rotate back and forth.
Sure.
Before we get into that, what I would like to talk about, because I don't see it in your notes here, I am kind of curious, like how old would you say you were when you first got into gaming? Like, let's kind of start by talking about when exactly we got into gaming, just as the starting off point, and then we'll kind of get into that, like what gaming is like for us going forward. But when did you start to game?
For sure, yeah. So I can't remember exactly the age that I was at, but I feel like it was somewhere around like 6, 7, or 8 years old.
Okay.
Specifically, it was my parents got me. I guess they got both. It was for both me and my sister, but maybe it was a little bit more oriented to me. But it was like the original PlayStation Classic, and the
Ooh.
first games that we had. So the first games I think that I ever played. Well, actually, really, because like you know how I think like it was common for maybe consoles to come with like a brief demo, and
Oh
so
yeah.
there was this one demo. I'm thinking I could try to Google it, but I don't think I could actually do it quickly enough. So I'll just try to describe it, and maybe you know. But it
Or
was
you can look it up while I'm talking. I don't care. Go ahead.
that's fair. Yeah, I could do that. But I'll like real quick in case you do know, it's like you're basically a skeleton with like a big great sword, and you just like wander
Oh,
around a graveyard and start like hacking zombies apart.
yeah, that
Um,
is. I know what you're talking about, and God, the name is.
I feel like it's like medieval something.
It is medieval. No,
Is
I
it
think
just
it's just
medieval?
medieval. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the very first game that I ever played might have been the demo for Medieval, which is hilarious. I've never actually played the full game. But besides that, the first game I ever played was Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and the first Spyro the Dragon game. And I still love those games. I actually not too long ago got the like Spyro Reignited trilogy or whatever that they, you know, the sort of like touch up that they released
This right
for
here. How's this
that one.
looking?
Yeah, exactly. Medieval.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, this is medieval. I've definitely played this game before. I mean, look at these sweet graphics you have here.
I know. Yeah. It was fun. Like I kind of would like to find it at some point and play it.
Maybe they'll remaster it, or maybe they have since you played it last.
It's possible. Honestly though, I wouldn't like, you know, I don't hate those kinds of like classic 90s graphics. I'd take it as is if there was like a ROM that I could like play on an emulator or something, you know, I would eat that up.
Well, so it looks like not to yuck your yum, but it does look like they came back out with it in 2019.
Oh damn.
And
Okay.
from what I'm seeing here, it's look at the difference here.
Wow, very yum.
Yeah.
All right.
That,
I mean, yeah, I'd play that too.
yeah. So you might be able to have your cake and eat it too. You can have both.
All right.
Uh,
Sweet.
yeah. There you
Cool.
go.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that. But yeah, so like I remember my very first experiences with video games were doing really, really bad at every aspect of Crash Bandicoot and just like roaming around the empty fields of Spyro the Dragon, not really having a clue what I was doing or how to progress. It was really interesting playing it as an adult and having a much better idea of like what the objectives are and how to reach them and how quickly I was able to do it and how much time I just like there was one section of one level in particular where like I just ran around in circles for hours, I'm pretty sure, like me and my sister both. And then my dad would come in and like in Crash Bandicoot, you know, I knew that we were trying to gather crystals by like beating the level, but I had no idea that there was this whole other side quest of like gathering gems. And I had no idea how you could get like the colored gems. And then my dad just got all of them. And I was like, why are you so good at everything? Like, what the hell? I mean, this is incredible. So I was very jealous of my father for just like showing us up, you know, like 7 and 8 year olds that we were. But yeah, that was my first gaming experience, PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro.
Yeah, so for me, obviously I'm a little bit older than you. I just celebrated my 40th birthday in March.
Ooh,
yeah.
nice.
So for me, I started playing honestly around the original Nintendo era / Super Nintendo era.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's when I started playing a lot of Mario Brothers, a lot of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, a lot of Super Metroid. I played a lot of Super Punch Out, and very similar. Like my dad, so growing up, my mom was in a not so great marriage, and so that's when I started video games. But then once she got out of that crappy situation and then got in a better situation, I then got into Super Nintendo with my now dad when I was probably around, I'd say 9 or 10. And then that was a big bonding experience for me and my new dad at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so that was very cool and very, very similar to you. It's like, I just couldn't comprehend why he was so good at things. I was just like, I don't understand. I've been playing this game all day and you just come in here and you just show me what's up. But then, and you may have experienced something similar, that like there becomes a point where like the student becomes the master when you start playing newer things than what they've played. And then they look at you like they don't understand how you're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see how that the torch is almost passed, but then you just leave them in the dust. You know?
Yeah.
Because that
you
was
stick
me
your
with
tongue
like,
out of them as you sprint away.
yeah, and then they beat the shit out of you with their physical hands.
Exactly.
But
it's funny because I do know the feeling of the first part of what you were describing, because I regularly seek out children to just destroy them in video games and publicly humiliate them.
I'll never forget. I took one of the random dates that I took Amelia on. I took her to her. Well, I don't know if it was her first time going, but we went to Dave and Buster's for the first time together.
Nice.
And I was like, this is going to be my chance to just completely dominate her. So we, you know, it's time for me to dominate her in public. So, however, we were playing Mario Kart, and I don't know how familiar you are with Mario Kart, but Mario Kart has this really bad thing where if you're really far ahead, it has this rubber band effect where the person that is like last is faster than the person that's in front. So they make it very easy to catch up, and it constantly gives them all the best weapons. So because I led most of the race,
because of your hubris.
Yeah. She hits me with the blue shell and passes me to win the race. I was so livid. I was so mad. And you know, Amelia enough to know that not only is Amelia a sore loser, Amelia is a sore winner. I'm not sure which one she's more sore at doing, but she's just as sore as winner as she is a loser. So she made sure to rub it. She made sure to rub it in my face. But
I can totally see that happening.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you deserved it. You were trying to shame her in front of the eyes of millions of
She didn't know that, though. She didn't know that.
But you knew that, and God knew that.
Yeah,
the Lord Jesus Christ knew that, and he wasn't going to let you get away with it.
Nope. He said, not today. Not on my watch. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. I tell you what, I'll start with my first bullet point, since I kind of already went into it a little bit, and then I'll turn it over to you. We'll just kind of go back and forth. So, for me as a little kid, video games for me at the time, when I was little, probably 7, 8, was more about escaping from things that were happening in my life during my early childhood that I just kind of wanted to disappear from.
Mm,
Um, so that's when I very first got into playing video games, more so like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega. Like that's the consoles that was at this point.
mhm.
And some of those games were easy, and then some I found to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
When I very first kind of stumbled upon, like Mario Brothers, always found to be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Then I played a Legend of Zelda. The difficulty went up a little bit more, and then I discovered Castlevania. I discovered Contra, and just games started to become a little bit more and more difficult. But I found during those moments that I liked the challenge, because it wasn't something that I could just breeze through, and it would require me to spend more time trying to figure those things out. So at
Yeah.
that point, it was really more so to video games for me at that time was really more so just about piquing my curiosity of experiencing new things that I've not experienced before, but also a way is to more so pacify me in certain areas of life that weren't like so great at the time. So that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of where video games started for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first point doesn't touch on that exactly, but like I feel like one of my later points is sort of very similar thematically to what you're just describing. And I think video games are great for like they're really good at helping you through something, I would say, or they can be for sure. Um, like as a kid, so for me, like getting started with it, like I feel like I was very lucky in terms of my level of access to games. Like I initially started thinking about it from the perspective that I didn't play a very wide variety of games. And I feel like that's true in part because, for example, I had never heard of something like Castlevania, for example, until like sometime within the past, like I'd say 5 to 7 years. Really, actually, I think I didn't hear about it until that Netflix anime came out. And then one of my friends like started telling me a little bit more about his experience playing the games, and I, tried to find them online and stuff. But so at the same time, like I got to play like Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, like a number of like really solid classics, and then some other random titles that I probably couldn't even remember the names of. So the main thing though that I kind of remember about my childhood experience with video games is that like I think it might be fair to say that I became pretty addicted to them, and not in a way that I look back fondly on, because I would just play the same games over and over again. And in particular, like the game that I have probably played more than anything is Dynasty Warriors 3, which is just such a
Wow.
random game that
I remember
all you
those
do is
games.
like you run around and you just like destroy like poor little peasant soldiers who are just like enlisted and don't want to be there, but they have to because the Han press gang them into service. And so it's like a little fucked up. I mean, you feel like a king because you're just like you're racking up such
Just
an
waves of
improbable body
enemies,
count.
just demolish them.
Absolutely demolish them. Yeah, I mean it's cool. Like I still love that game, and I've played at least like one or two other games in that series. Like I think I played Dynasty Warriors 4, and frankly, I was like kind of culturally enriched because like I have some familiarity of like that chapter of Chinese history and the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is apparently like a really significant novel in the history of Chinese literature. And so like I'm aware of these historical figures in a way that I definitely wouldn't have been. So, there was definitely some value in that, but I just like I'm a little like if I could go back and do it again, I wish that I could like reclaim some of the hours and hours that I would say like wasted playing that game, just doing the same thing over and over again, just because I like felt a sort of like I don't know anxious need to get my defense stat for Zhao Yun as high as I could make it, even though I had done so on like a few saves before resetting the thing for some reason. So, like it was great because it was nice to have it there, but at the same time, like I feel like I wasted my life a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Did you do you have a Switch? or no?
I do. I have a Switch. Yeah.
So
Enough
just
enough.
out of curiosity, and not that I'm trying to get you to go down another rabbit hole, but did you know that the people that made Dynasty Warriors, they made Hyrule Warriors, which is a Zelda version of Dynasty Warriors, essentially. I didn't know if you knew that existed or played it.
I did know that existed, and I think I played like a demo in GameStop kind of around when it came out, and I would play it. Like for some reason, I keep forgetting about it. I think I need to like add it to my Switch wish list, and I play the Switch pretty rarely. A lot of the time, like sometimes I'll like get back into it, but it's not the console that I reach for the most often for some reason.
Especially now you got a PS5, baby.
I do. I got so lucky. You know what? Well, actually, never mind. I'm just going to say I feel very grateful for the incredible deal that I was able to get my PS5 for. And it's nice. I'm very grateful for that.
I'm glad you like it.
It's sick, man. It's such a fun console.
So it seems so out of the games that you listed here, so you had listed Dynasty Warriors, Battlefront, Age of Empires 2, Warcraft 3, Halos, and others. So when I saw Battlefront, I saw Halo, like those two very much spoke to me because I played a lot. I spent a lot of time in both of those games.
Oh yeah. Wait, so did you play? Because I feel like a lot of people played. And by the way, let's just like set the stage for anybody that might care. When we're talking about Battlefront, we're talking about Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2 that came out in like the aughts. We're not talking about the later EA releases.
No.
Which I guess I shouldn't. I've never played them. I can't comment on them. I've heard a lot of opinions about them, and I know how I feel about the originals. And so those are the only ones that matter for me.
Well, they remastered the originals, but evidently the originals are still better to play than the remasters because the servers are absolute trash.
Oh, damn.
Unfortunately, because I was really looking forward to getting them and playing them because I was like, oh my God, I like the fact that you had different people you could play, vehicles, all that stuff. Like it was such a great game that I was going to get it, but evidently it was not well received. Now, I don't know if patches or updates have fixed it yet. I haven't went back and looked, but yeah. So for me, moving forward, were you done with your first point?
Oh, well, I was going to ask you more about, I mean, we can talk as much about it as you'd like. We can move on if you want to, but I would
go ahead.
love to hear more. Like, I feel like a lot of people fell in love with Battlefront 2 and maybe played the first Battlefront. Which one was bigger for you?
It's a great question. Me personally, I felt like I loved both of them, of the originals. I love both of them. But I always felt like I was drawn more towards the original than the second one.
Me too. I felt
which is usually a hot take because I think in the second one is when they introduced where you could play as a Jedi,
exactly,
or a Sith, but because in the first one I don't think you could do that.
You couldn't. So, you could like if you conquered a specific planet, you could choose that as like your power or whatever for that level, and one of them had the option to introduce like a Jedi hero, so you could see Darth Vader running around slaying rebels left and right, but you couldn't play as exactly.
But the first one for me, honestly, it was the one that I always felt like I went back to more so than the second one. And I was especially like just playing with friends, I always just felt like it was the best. So you was the first one as well?
Like I likewise really appreciated the second one, but it was harder because I played the first one so much before I got to play the second one, and there are just like slight differences in the feel and the way that, like just those minor sort of changes that developers will make to sequels and stuff that, they're totally justified. Like I experienced the same thing transitioning from Oblivion to Skyrim because I had played so much Oblivion that I almost hated Skyrim at first because of, like something as minor as like dual wielding or even just like the camera perspective on the player, like real insignificant crap like that. But, you just get used to it and you start to appreciate those little differences. But it took me a while to do that with Battlefront 2. Eventually I got there, but I had just been so enamored with the first one. And again, like that's definitely another one that like I just wasted time playing because like I was only playing by myself. Like, it wasn't even a social thing for me. Like, I couldn't even point to that to be like, well, at least I was bonding with my friends. Like, no, I was just in my dad's basement playing the same levels of Battlefront over and over again for, like, you know, no real reason. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
I had a great time, but yes. So I still like very much consider that to be my, like, that's probably one of my favorite Star Wars games, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a great question. So I do have to ask, out of the Halos that you were drawn more to, which was your favorite Halo? I'm going to guess you're going to say Halo 2. But what are you going to say?
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's a tough question, actually, because I feel like it's been different at different times in my life. I think the ones that with the exception of Halo 3, my entire experience of playing Halo is like just the campaigns, and I actually really like Halo's lore and was a real sucker for just the story of Halo and getting to play as the Master Chief and embark on those battles and stuff. But so I think the games whose plots I respect the most and who are honestly kind of the most like moving for me, because I had a pretty emotional response to a fair number of them. I would say from the biggest one is Halo Reach, and then after that I'd put Halo 2, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, like, I wasn't a huge online multiplayer for Halo. I focused mostly on campaign, co-op campaign, and then local multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really get into a lot of online multiplayer. That really wasn't my bag.
That was largely true for me as well, except for Halo 3, because there were two friends of mine that I got to play with, Jeff and David, and like we had sort of a little fire team going for a little bit, and I had a great time playing with them. But again, like I just got super addicted to it and really wrapped up in the rank system, and like I would have like just the most retroactively embarrassing emotional outbursts if like my kill to death ratio wasn't like positive, it wasn't like pristine. And you know, I my biggest fear was ever becoming like an officer grade 2 or grade 3 or something, like if I wasn't just seamlessly moving through the ranks. And then the nail in the coffin for me was when I became like a major grade 2 or whatever with like the bar underneath it, and I was just like, oh my god, I have failed. I have not done well enough to just proceed as normal. And I would get like, I was a real asshole to my friends, honestly, especially to Jeff. If Jeff is listening to this right now, please know that I really regret my behavior and you deserve better, and I'm very sorry. But like, I was actually honestly jealous of Jeff in particular because he was much better at the game than I was. And I think that was a big part of it. But yeah, so I played a lot of Halo 3. I really like that game. I have a lot of shame about how I sort of responded to it, I'll say.
Yeah.
And then I honestly had to take a break from video games. And circumstantially, it made sense to do so. I didn't really have access to them for a couple years. But like, honestly, like it was sort of a turning point for me playing Halo 3 and then stopping. And then like for a while, I actually kind of considered myself to no longer be a video game person or like a person who played games or a fan of them or anything, for like maybe like 5 to 6 or like 7 years or something. And Halo 3 was to blame. Or really, I was to blame, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I don't have this in my notes, but I will say I had a very similar not healthy relationship with World of Warcraft. Because I was working at GameStop when World of Warcraft came out, so it was like what everybody was doing.
Yeah,
I was in college at the time, and it was just a very toxic, time-wasting thing to be a part of, that I felt like sucked many years of my life, and I just eventually walked away, and I have never been back. I've tried to go back with every expansion, and I last about a week, and I'm like, nah, can't do it. So
yeah.
And honestly, too, it's like, out of all the MMOs I've played, World of Warcraft seems to be the most toxic. Like, has the most toxic community. Yeah, in my opinion.
Okay.
Final Fantasy has been great. I haven't ran into any issues. Everybody's very patient, very kind. It's night and day difference.
Interesting.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah. But so for me, as a teenager slash college, for me, gaming was more of a social aspect and bonding with friends. During this time frame is really when I played early teenage years, a lot of N64, a lot of GoldenEye, a lot of Ocarina of Time. I also this when I very first started to get into Mario Kart was N64.
Mm.
Played Perfect Dark, Turok. The boat that I've always missed though that I was never on is I never got into Pokemon ever.
Really? None of the
Never.
Pokemon games?
Never. I missed it somehow. I don't know how. And it's not even it's not even that I came in contact with it when I was young. It was just like, oh, it's not for me.
Right.
I just never heard about it, never got in. I don't know how I missed it. I just did. I don't
Yeah. Somehow the wilds of West Virginia avoided the Pokemon craze.
Yeah, I know. I loved the Dreamcast. I felt like the Dreamcast was well beyond its years. It was before its time, I should say. I played, that's where I very first kind of to start to get sports games when they had the NFL 2K games. It's where I very first started to get into fighting games. There's a fighting game on there. Well, a couple. One was called Soul Calibur. The other was called Dead or Alive. I got into both of those fighting games very heavily, and I continued to play those as I moved through consoles. That's also where I kind of got into horror games. They had some horror games on there called Fatal Frame, which is you're taking pictures of ghosts and stuff. And that's where I very first played my Resident Evil games. I played Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 2. And then one of my favorite games I played on GameCube that really just kind of like opened me up to this like open world games was the game called Shenmue, which was like they had Shenmue 1 and 2 on Dreamcast, and then they made Shenmue 3, I think, on Xbox, I think, much later, many, many years later. But that game was like you went to work, you had a job, you're trying to solve a murder on who killed your dad. Like it was unlike anything I'd ever played up until that point.
It's just describing normal life. Like that's what I do from 9 to 5 every day.
Which is really depressing, isn't it? It's like now I play games to escape reality as opposed to just want to be like, because at that time I didn't have a job, so I didn't know what it was like. When I was playing Dreamcast, I was just a kid in high school. I didn't. I was like maybe a freshman. No, I wouldn't have been. I was in middle school, I think, because I got a job when I was a freshman. But then I discovered GameCube. And GameCube is really when I started to fall in love with gaming, because GameCube is still to this day one of my favorite consoles that had ever been released.
Yeah.
It also holds my favorite version of Metal Gear Solid on it. Of course,
does it?
Yeah, there's a game called Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, which is a remake of the Metal Gear Solid that was on PS1.
I have heard of that.
Graphics and a first-person mode when you go to aim your gun, and they redid all the cut scenes and everything. It's so good. It's so good. But then it's also where we got Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker. We also got Twilight Princess. We also got my favorite Resident Evil 4. It was just, and then it was very first when I was introduced to the Time Splitter games, which is by the same people that did GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. Those games are great. I'm trying to think of what else was on there. But and that's obviously where all the Metroid Prime games were. Those were great. It's just such a good console. So many bangers.
It really
and
is.
Then PS2. And PS2, I think, still this day is one of the best PlayStation consoles we ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Xbox. So I did a lot of gaming during that time frame, but really it was more, I played a lot more local multiplayer games. And that's something that me and my buddy Alex, Allie, her husband. Him and I, he has his own podcast with his friends, but he came on and we did an episode, which I completely somehow accidentally deleted and it never got aired. But we talked about how the social aspect of gaming has changed over the years, right? Where you used to sit on the couch with your friends, play couch co-op, stuff like that. Now that stuff like that doesn't exist anymore. But these were the moments in gaming for me where I experienced that the most. The couch co-op, making sure nobody was watching your 4-player split screen. Don't be screen watching. This was the most, Mario Party on the GameCube, like just, all these different things. Like, and I remember playing Fusion Frenzy on Xbox. That was a great party game. Like, a lot of games happened. Guitar Hero, Rock Band, like.
We had a campus center at my bougie ass high school, and somebody just like brought Guitar Hero in one day and it never left. And some people would just skip class for the whole day for like weeks on end and just perfect like Sweet Child of Mine on,
That is a franchise between Guitar Hero and Rock Band. It needs to make a comeback with the way that streaming and stuff is nowadays. Like, give me a game with some bass songs and tell me, hey, it's 99 cents a pop for every song you want to buy. I'm cool with that.
Oh wow, okay.
I'd be down.
You heard it here first, folks. You got your.
They've actually brought. I don't know if you play Fortnite, but they've actually brought Guitar Hero basically into Fortnite. They even have a guitar that they sell separately that you can go to. It's called Fortnite Festival, but you can go there and you can play basically Guitar Hero.
No way. I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah. So something needs to happen. But anyways, so that was my my second. What do you got?
So like I think so kind of like picking up where I left off in terms of like when I kind of stopped gaming, like was playing playing a lot of Halo 3, specifically online, and really raging about it in not a good way that I'm not proud of. And then like that was in 10th grade. And then I like had a very privileged junior year of high school where I like got to spend that year abroad. And so I wasn't living at home for that year and didn't have access to video games. And so like didn't play them and kind of had the opportunity to shed myself to a degree of what I think could very justifiably called like a full-blown addiction to video games. And then I came back and I don't remember the specifics, but I didn't pick video games back up. And I kind of wanted to avoid that. There was part of me that felt like it was good to not do so. And then I got to go to college where I also didn't play video games. And I do remember just like being, so kind of like, one of the points that I was sort of trying to allude to before was like, even though I had some pretty decent exposure to games when I was getting started, there was a lot that I wasn't aware of. And, for example, like I never played something like Eco or Resident Evil or games that were definitely of the era where I was like growing up. And maybe I was a little young for some of them. And like my parents wouldn't have gotten me a game that was like too violent or graphic or something like that. But so, there was a lot about gaming sort of as like an overarching concept or like gamer culture that I wasn't aware of. And I remember some of my friends in college were talking about how awesome, for example, Portal was, or Half-Life or Fallout and something. And I was like, I've never heard of those games. Like, what are you talking about? But then they described them to me, or maybe like I'd see them play like little snippets of it briefly. And I was like, oh, these look really cool. But so that kind of like planted a seed in my mind, but it didn't really go anywhere. But then when I came back from college, I really struggled for a number of years to sort of get the ball rolling. And I was like pursuing one thing career-wise that just got stalled sort of indefinitely for a really long time, where I was sort of stuck in a bit of a limbo and had a difficult time coming off of college, sort of socially and emotionally. And like all things considered, I was pretty depressed at that period of my life. And at some point, I had a part-time job and had like a little bit of disposable income, was still living at home. So fortunately didn't have to pay rent. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything at all. So I might as well just like get an Xbox and maybe like play some of the games that I played a little bit as a kid. Cause like I had played a little bit of Oblivion and had heard people like Skyrim came out when I was in college and people just wouldn't shut up about it. And I was like, this game sounds fucking amazing. I would love to play it. And so like I picked up those. I picked up some of the Halo titles like Halo Reach, picked up some Call of Duty games because I was really into the military at the time. And so I was just like, I played like a few more games and played them a lot. And like sank also kind of an embarrassing amount of time into those games. And, there would be moments where I'd like wake up because I was having trouble sleeping. And so I'd like wake up at the ass crack of dawn. And then I'd just be like, well, I've got nothing to do today, so I'll go down and play Skyrim. And then I played Skyrim until, like, I think at least once I played Skyrim for literally 24 hours and then went to bed for like 5 hours and then woke back up and started playing it again. And so like, it was kind of a dark and depressing time, but it got me through it. Like I really appreciate like the role that those video games were able to play for me in kind of like carrying me through a time where I was like really disconnected socially and didn't really have the means to break out of that. Like I was trying to, but it just wasn't happening. And so, there's a lot of difficult aspects of modern society, I feel, where it's easy to get really isolated like that. And so I think that that's very unfortunate, but I'm very grateful to have something like video games where they can, meet some of those needs for you when, at least for me, like when I was really struggling. And so like, I think Skyrim, I could call my favorite video game of all time, if for no other reason, it played such like an important role in my life when I really needed something.
Yeah, and luckily for you, it's been re-released about 27,000 times, so you could probably play it on a potato at this point. So, but no, Skyrim is great. That's actually one of the. I think that might be. No, I beat Oblivion, but that was my first. Oblivion was my first intro into an Elder Scrolls game, and then I played Skyrim, and those games couldn't be so different, but also both great in their own regards.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, I remember when they introduced the whole dragon thing, I was like, God, this is so cool and also terrifying at the same time. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's really cool. So I do have to ask, so like, what was the video game that, like, because you described a few video games, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was the game you felt like really brought you back to gaming since you had been away from it for so long?
I think Oblivion, actually, because I think that was sort of my goal, was when I first like got myself an Xbox. It was an Xbox 360 in like 2015 or 2016 or something, to kind of like give myself something to do while I had nothing to do. I still hadn't like gotten into a sort of gamer headspace and like wasn't trying to stay clued in about new releases or trying to like revisit classic titles that I'd missed. That came a little bit later, but so like I had played Oblivion in, I think, 10th grade and had never made very much progress with it. And then every once in a while I would feel this like really strong urge. It was kind of unsettling how powerful the urge was. And I would like sit, there'd be times where like I'd be like lying in bed trying to go to sleep, but my mind would be racing just thinking about how to like min-max my build. I was like obsessed with the idea of being like a warrior oriented red guard so that I could just like, and then like becoming like a member of the Blades and then just like moving through society as like a covert agent that was super dangerous, but nobody knew because I just blended in and stuff. I was just like thinking about how, and Oblivion had that like really bullshit level up system where you had to like do math basically in order to get the maximum number of points for every level. So I was obsessed with how I would actually carry out that leveling system. But I didn't actually have the game yet. And then one day I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna get it. And so I think the first one that I got was Oblivion, and then just like dove into that and did exactly what I wanted to with it. And from there, like I also, I had been exposed to Halo Reach and I knew the premise, but I hadn't really played it before. And I thought it was a really interesting concept. And so I really wanted to play that. And then, so like, I think Oblivion was the first one. And then that led me into Skyrim. And then I also wanted to get Halo Reach. And then that sort of put me back into the Halo sphere because I got Halo 4 and I got Combat Evolved when it was re-released and that sort of thing, and then got into the Call of Duty Modern Warfare series, or like, the first one. And then at some point, I think because of some of the friends that I was hanging out with, like, I think I tried starting to revisit some older games. And once I like got a job that paid decent, I was able to like actually buy myself some other consoles that gave me wider access to new games and stuff, and like being able to purchase them online. And like one friend of mine in particular, my friend John, he just gave it to me. It was so nice. He gave me his old PlayStation 4. And then I discovered how great the PlayStation 4 store is and how frequently they run discounts. So I just like amassed this huge stockpile of games that had been out for like 15 years because I got them for like $1 or whatever, or games that had come out 5 years before that I got for $15 or whatever. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like I'm gonna start blasting my way through this. And so that was kind of like how I kind of came back into gaming, and then sort of like dove a little bit deeper into it.
Very cool. So for me, transitioning into like early adulthood, so probably after I was probably maybe early to mid 20s, I'd say, I started to transition into more online games where I wasn't doing that prior. And the biggest reason that I did this was as life happens, people disperse, they move, they go on to other things.
For sure.
So at this point in my life, like gaming for me online mostly was to keep in contact with friends that had either moved off to go to school somewhere else, or got married and moved away, or maybe there was a while that I lived in St. Louis, so therefore I was gaming with people back home. And even today, obviously transitioning down here from West Virginia to Atlanta, like a lot of what I play is online to game with people back home. Or if I'm not playing something with them, I'm sitting in chat talking to them in Discord while they're playing something else. So mostly what I do now is I during this time frame was just to use it as simply a way to stay connected with people that I have been gaming with for many years, but we're now in different places. So during this time frame, this is kind of when I got into World of Warcraft. This is when I got really heavy into World of Warcraft. This is also, I found that I started to play more racing games at this point in my life. I was playing a lot of Need for Speed, a lot of Burnouts, and then also kind of getting introduced to the Forza series during this time frame as well. And then from here, this is because when it was Xbox 360 and PS3, I found that I always played my Xbox 360 way more because that was the place that all my friends were playing. So I would play all the multiplayer games on Xbox 360, and any exclusive story-driven games I would play on PS3. A lot of the Uncharted games, a lot of like Shadow of the Colossus, a lot of Ico, that type of stuff I was playing on PS2, PS3, PS4. However, when Xbox One came out and PS4 came out, I had switched. I was playing more on PS4 because I found that I was playing more solo. I was after more solo gaming experience because people I've been playing with games that kind of fell off and not really gamed as much. So I found myself to be playing PS4 because I felt like the PS4 got it right in regards of the interface, the PlayStation Store, whereas the Xbox One I felt like was so cluttered and clunky, advertisement everywhere. It was just Microsoft being Microsoft. So I kept my Xbox One if I did have friends that solely played online games there, but everything else I was mainly doing on PS4 at this point. So, but once I transitioned to that point in life and to where I am now, now I find that I am playing, with the exception of like Final Fantasy 14, because that is an online multiplayer game, that most of the games that I tend to enjoy and look for now are all solo experiences for the most part. Unless there's like a social gathering, unless there's like a party. Like I love a good Jackbox game, getting a ton of people together to play Jackbox or Mario Party, stuff like that. However, I find that now gaming for me is more of a solo gaming experience because it's just, for me, it's to escape the sometimes stresses of adulthood and just being overly social. I used to have a very large social battery. I used to go out. I used to prefer to be out as opposed to being home. Now I'm the exact opposite of that. Do I
now
think
you're
COVID
40.
Yeah, I know. Do I think that COVID played a role in that? Because I was super social before COVID. And now I just like enjoy, I'm more of a homebody now. You know what I mean?
Dang.
Like I do enjoy a good social, like social stuff, but like it has to be in small doses for me nowadays. I feel like, you know? So now gaming for me, primarily PC, PS5. I find that I mostly am playing console exclusives there. I have an Xbox One Series X that collects dust. I couldn't tell you the last time I turned it on. I have a Switch. Same story. Couldn't tell you the last time. Amelia's had it for the past 3 months because I introduced her to Animal Crossing. I just got it back, and I don't even know when I'll play that. And then I also have a handheld gaming PC called a Legion Go. It's kind of like a Switch, but it's a PC.
Oh, nice.
So I find that I primarily play on PC. If it's a solo console exclusive, PS5, and then if I want to play PC on the go, I play on my Legion Go. That's pretty much what my gaming experience looks like now. The great thing about playing on PC, Steam is always running sales. Steam summer sale, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes sitting in front of your big screen on your couch with a controller in your hand, nothing beats it.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of the last. So the new Spider-Man, well, the newest Spider-Man game on PS5, that was one of the last games I played through. Last of Us 2 Remastered, that was one of the last games I played.
Oh, did you actually play it? Like all the way through?
No, I'm about halfway through. I need to beat it because the show is going to be coming back out pretty soon. So
right, like I think I remember y'all talking about that in the last episode where like Justin was trying to say like, yeah, you should definitely beat The Last of Us 2 before you watch the new season.
Yeah, I kind of took his advice, and then also my friend Maxwell messaged me and says, even if you don't play it, you should watch the gameplay. I was like, I mean, I guess
that's actually what I did, because there was a long time where, you know, I like was making so little money that I had gotten this like janky old Xbox 360 and like really bootleg used copies of the like 5 games that I played. But I really wanted to like stay current if I could with some of them. And like The Last of Us in particular just fascinated me. And I've probably watched the like game movie of The Last of Us. I've definitely watched it more times than I've actually played the game. I probably watched it through like 3 or 4 times or something. And then when The Last of Us 2 came out, it was a 13-hour YouTube video, and I watched the whole thing. And I think like for the last like leg of that viewing experience, I was pet sitting for a friend and just had, you know, nothing to do. And I think I probably watched the last like 5 hours just all in one go because I was like, I just need to see how this ends.
Yeah. You know, to kind of wrap up everything that I have to say about like what's changed my view, there's not been one particular thing I think that changed my view. The only thing that I've kind of realized about games is there's going to be certain games and certain consoles that are exactly what you need in whatever moment in life that you're at. That's kind of what I like going back and reflecting on this. Like that's the big thing that I've kind of realized. And I've also realized that sometimes nostalgia is a good thing and also it's a bad thing. Because a lot of times, like if I remember something being super great and nostalgia and I go back and play it, sometimes I'll tell myself, I don't even know how I ever played this game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The fight's pretty hard.
Yeah. But the one thing that I'll tell you that's made me kind of sad is like looking at what games used to be for me versus what they are now.
Oh, yeah.
And just knowing that the experiences that I had with video games because of the time of like where we were in the video game industry and just like the time that we were, there's
Mhm.
going to be there's going to be ways that kids nowadays will not be able to experience video games, and it makes me
Mhm.
sad. Like, I remember some of my funnest moments being, hey, uh, do you want to have your friend Johnny stay over for the weekend? We're gonna go to Blockbuster Video, and you guys can pick out a video game for the weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
those were some of the fondest memories of my childhood, and knowing that like while they may be able to experience in a different like fashion per se, it just, I don't know, it just hits differently, like when I think about what that used to mean for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, like I assume that they're gonna have their own experiences that are gonna be just as meaningful to them. But
Yeah.
I do agree that because it's so meaningful to us, we're gonna naturally think that it was better and that they don't have it as good.
Well, yeah. And what's funny is I can see the exact moment in time where I realized that gaming wasn't going to be the same again.
Oh, okay.
Is I remember when I had a Sega Genesis, and they were way ahead of their time, but they released something called Sega Channel, and essentially it was a cartridge that you would sit down in your console, and there was like a regular cable coax, like a coax cable you'd run to a TV,
Yeah.
but it actually screwed into the back of the cartridge, and it was
Wow.
the very first like video game on demand. You had like a list of like 30 to 40 Sega Genesis games that you could call up and play at any point in time.
Oh my
Like,
God.
just like that. And this was back in the
On the
early 90s.
Genesis?
Yeah, it's called Sega Channel.
Holy
But
shit.
that's when I realized that like things aren't going to be the same. Like, now
Yeah.
it didn't last for like too long.
Uh-huh.
But I was trying to see if I could find the menu because I just wanted you to see what it looks like. But it had like an actual like list of games. Yeah, here we go. Here, let me see if I can share this with you. But it was just like one of those things that like I remember sitting in my room, and I had my friend Joey over, and I just knew that like, so like you would go in and you would pick like your genre. So this is what it looked like, right?
Uh-huh.
So you would pick like, you could even test games that weren't officially released out, but then you could go like, here's some arcade games, but you would pick your genre, and like it would just call it up in an instant. No downloading, no nothing. It would just like come through and you would just play it, but it was all on one cartridge. It was the
Mhm.
very first form of video games on demand that I could remember. And
That
this was
is
like back,
wild.
I want to say they had, let me see. I saw the wiki channel, the wiki. Yeah, 94. I think it was 94 is when this, yeah. So it was launched in 94 and discontinued in 98.
That's unbelievable. Like I'm reeling from that revelation. I had no idea.
Yeah. So
Because like
yeah.
Biggie
So
was rapping about the Genesis. I mean, that's just like you were right that they were ahead of their time. That's just unbelievable. Like I have no words. That's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
so somebody's created a website that I guess is supposed to mimic what this experience was like.
Right.
Yeah, so every 2 weeks you got they refreshed it, and you had 40
Okay.
games to choose from. Yeah, which was pretty crazy because you would just call into the Sega hotline, and you just get hooked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it was wild. But that's when I knew that like going forward, that like the experience for gaming was going to change. Like those blockbuster moments probably were not going to be. I mean, they still lasted for quite a bit of time after that. But
Yeah.
like I knew that when somebody figured out a better way to do it, or if there was going to be some sort of online store, or if consoles eventually started having their built-in storage, that like it was going to come back in a different fashion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but yeah, so that's my thing about video games. What else did you have to add before we move on?
I mean, like what you were saying a minute ago about like, there that there will be sort of times in your life where you'll like be able to find sort of exactly the game that you need in that moment. Like I completely agree with that. I mean, it just, so like I've like been able to learn just sort of like a little bit about the process behind video games and how they work kind of under the hood. And it's just like blows my mind how people are able to come up with like like just as a medium, they're wild to me. Like they're so impressive and they're so just like the potential for like an experience, like a one of a kind experience with a video game, I feel like is unparalleled. Like there's nothing else that comes close to it. And so I'm so impressed by the level of creativity that people are able to put into video games and what they're able to express through them. And, you know, as a kid and like into adulthood, my sort of exposure to video games was like less nuanced and relatively one-dimensional. And I'm really glad that I've been able to have a broader experience with them and get to play games that have a much more emotional impact, or that just sort of open my eyes because of, you know, how like even just sort of like an art style that's really unique, something like that. You know, I think that they're absolutely fascinating in terms of what you're able to achieve with them, what people have achieved with them, and sort of like a player's experience and sort of the journey that they get to go on. And I completely agree, sort of coming back to the point that you made earlier, that like that can be really important and significant for a person, depending on sort of what they're going through.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, now that I'm older and like the way that obviously I've clearly talked about how my video game journey has changed, I think that's why now I find that I'm less interested in games that are repeating franchises like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duties, like that type of stuff, because I am in it now for those experiences that move me and connect with me.
Yeah.
That's why I find that like I really like looking at like indie games or smaller studios to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like as an example, like and it's a shame because and I think it did just release on PlayStation 5, or maybe it's going to soon. But one of the games that I just played on a whim because my buddy Alex and his friends were talking about on their podcast, but it didn't sound like anything that I would be that into. But I gave it a chance. So there's Tango Studios, which is the studio that did the Evil Within series on Xbox, like the horror games.
Mm-hmm.
They did a project, like a game just out of left field called Hi-Fi Rush. And it's basically like a hack and slash beat 'em up 3D anime style looking game, but it's done to the beat of a rhythm game.
Oh,
so
nice.
When you're doing your attacks and you're doing blocks, everything is on the beat of the rhythm of the song that's playing in the stage. You can see plants like popping and jumping to the beat of the song. You can see the way the enemies attack you is also in the beat of the song.
Yeah.
But it's not so punishing that if you can't get it, you still can't. They reward you and give you more points for how stylized your stuff is, how on beat it is. But I absolutely love that game, and that's not a game that I would have ever anticipated on liking. But it was, I think, my top favorite game that I played last year, or whatever year it came out.
Nice, yeah.
But it's because there's people out here doing original stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that Microsoft shut that studio down because it was so popular that they were in talks to do a second one. And then they came out and said, oh, you know, we know everybody loved Hi-Fi Rush. We're bringing Hi-Fi Rush to PlayStation 5 so everybody can enjoy this game.
Yeah.
And then like a couple weeks later, they announced that they were shutting the studio down, even though they're still releasing that game on PlayStation.
Damn.
But anyways, it's about those experiences that I get into and that I thoroughly enjoy, not expecting, like knowing what I'm going into. That's why like I'm a sucker for an indie game. Like if it looks compelling enough, like I'm going to try it. You know what I mean? Because the great thing about Steam is you play less than 2 hours, and if you don't like it, you return it for a full refund. Like if all consoles did that, like if Xbox and Microsoft got on that train, I would probably try a few more games that I might not normally try. But if I try something, I'm stuck with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But you know, that's one of the things too, is like, I just really enjoy like smaller studios now trying new things. And it's a shame that like these bigger studios that buy up these smaller studios, even if they do something great, that's not necessarily means that they're going to keep them open. That's the shitty thing about it, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, now that we've talked about anything else to add before we move on?
I think that does it for me on that one. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, now that we've talked about our journey through life in video games and kind of the roles they played in our life, so to speak, let's talk about another thing. Let's talk about what we're looking forward to. And I'm actually going to let you kick this one off, because I forgot the first thing you wrote. I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be trying to go to this as well. So,
well, so I, only just realized that I idiotically double booked myself, because the one that you're referring to is Dragon Con coming up in Atlanta, which if I, can read a calendar, it's Labor Day weekend, which is also when our friend group is putting together a murder mystery up in fucking Virginia. And so I just sort of cluelessly made another decision that I would have regretted if not for this other unfortunate coincidence, where now I have to sort of choose one or the other. I got a 5-day pass, which I would not have done normally at Dragon Con if I had been paying closer attention. But so I'm going to try to go on Thursday, I think, and hope for the best, and then head up to the murder mystery on Friday. But yeah, I just I feel like such an idiot that I didn't connect those dots. My God.
It's Bailey's fault. Everything's Bailey's fault.
I know. Everybody should be trying to go to Dragon Con and then, plan your schedule around that.
There could have been a murder mystery at Dragon Con.
That would be pretty fun, actually.
And we could all cosplay. It's the perfect place to do it. You know what I mean?
Damn. Okay, we should actually try to do that next year.
Yeah, there you go. So you got Dragon Con coming up, and then you got Murder Mystery. Murder Mystery, I hear last year was a big hit. So
it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I don't know if the great time that I was having allowed anybody else to enjoy themselves, but
I heard you're really into your role.
I probably took it a little too far. They were very kind. They gave me an award at the end of the night, which I think was just to get me to shut up. But I had a blast for sure.
Well, now I can't remember. Was it you or was it Zach that had the tribal tattoos?
It was Zach. Honestly, Zach, he did such a goddamn good job with his presentation, his costume, and
was he the pool boy or was that you?
He was the pool boy. I was actually the murderer, which shocked me. I was not mentally prepared for that. But I can't remember. I think I was the son, but then I believe it was revealed that my real father was the butler. And then I think I was in a sexual relationship with my mom or something.
Wow.
I mean, there was some real shit going on.
They were trying to go through as many plot twists as possible, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
So for me, my timeline's changed a little bit because I got COVID last week. So I think I was going to try to go home and see my family towards the end of August. And my thought process was I was going to try to come to Murder Mystery Weekend on my way back from West Virginia. So I can just come through Virginia and just do the weekend there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because I got COVID, I think my timeline is going to get messed up. But I also don't know how Amelia would feel if I came and she wasn't there. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
But
you wait, is Amelia not going?
No, she's got. It's because she has a wedding the first and second weekend of September.
Okay.
That's why. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the second thing I'm looking forward to is I have vacation first weekend of October. The first part of that vacation, we're going to see Amelia's sister that lives in Charleston, South Carolina. And then after that, we're going to spend the rest of the week in Hilton Head. So
very nice.
And then and then maybe hit Savannah on the way back.
Oh my
So,
God.
I love Savannah.
Yeah. I've only been once, but I had a great time.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
tell
been
you,
to?
that would be a place to do a murder mystery is in Savannah.
Ooh, yeah, because we'd probably actually find a real ghost.
There's been a murder. Yeah, we could do a ghost tour. Yeah,
I feel like there's
yeah,
probably it's probably 1 out of every 5 visits to Savannah where you just like bump into a guy coming around the corner that's just saying that apropos of nothing, but like you just sort of
yeah.
hear over your shoulder like, oh, there's been a moida, and you're like,
That's right.
and they're just like, I'm just going to buy groceries.
That's probably true. That's probably true. Last time I was down there, Amelia and I found a coffee shop that was a speakeasy.
Ooh,
And it was
cool.
themed after Agatha Christie. So it was really cool looking. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Wait, so have you been to Charleston and Hilton Head before? I've never been to Charleston, and I would really
Yeah,
like to.
I've been to Charleston once. I went by myself 3 years ago on a solo road trip, and
Oh,
then
okay.
I've been to Hilton Head, but I've been to Hilton Head since I was a little kid. So this will be the first time I've been back there in a while. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah,
That's like
yeah,
the perfect like coastal southern trip. Like you're hitting all the right
yeah.
spots.
Because her sister only lives an hour and a half from Hilton Head, so I was like, well, why don't we go there first? Because her sister's been wanting us to come visit anyways. I was like, we'll start our vacation there. That way, when we actually go to Hilton Head, it's only an hour and a half drive, so it'll
Yeah,
be great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So, but outside of that, that's pretty much what I'm looking forward to. I was trying to think if there was any movies or shows. Did you get to go see Deadpool and Wolverine, or is that not your bag?
No, it's I want to go see it. I was supposed to go see it this weekend, but ended up falling through. But I haven't seen it yet. I've heard some of the spoilers, so.
Oh, see, I was real worried about that.
But I don't mind. Like I used to get really anxious about spoilers, but I've come around, and now I don't want to like ruin it for somebody who is trying to have like as pure an experience as possible. But you can ruin a movie for me, and I probably won't mind.
No, I wouldn't do that. All right, well, let's go ahead. So one of the ways we like to end the show, which everybody knows that's listened, since you've listened, is we like to talk about pick of the week. So I'm hoping you came prepared with a pick of the week. I think you did.
I did.
So I would love to hear what your pick of the week is.
My pick of the week that I'm going for is Mark of the Ninja. Because
you mean this game right here?
That game right there, that little beaut. And I mean, honestly, like I haven't gotten that far into it yet, so I feel like I don't have as well-rounded an opinion as I would like. But it's just a really sick game, I think. Like I love its art style. I like that it has sort of a. I was talking about this with some friends last night. They were talking about like just how kind of sort of like what would be the right way to say it? Like maybe overladen a lot of AAA games are now. That they were talking about Baldur's Gate 3 in particular, which I've heard a lot of great things about, and I haven't played yet. I really want to, but like there's just I think they were talking in particular about how deep the dialogue trees got, and like how many NPCs just sort of fling themselves at you, offering side quests and stuff, and you're just like, I just want to do like a simple gaming experience or whatever, and like there's definitely a time and place for those kinds of games. And I mean, like, it's a big part of why I got so invested in Skyrim, was because it felt like there was so much available to explore. But at least for myself lately, I've been appreciating much more pared down experiences. And I think Mark of the Ninja delivers that in a big way that's also just like super stylized and super fun. So I feel like I haven't heard people talk about it that much, and maybe it's just because I'm not clued in or whatever, but I feel like everybody should be playing this game.
Well, it's probably because that game's been out for a really long time. That might be why.
That's true too.
I mean, that screenshot that I showed was from the Xbox 360 arcade page.
Oh, damn.
So that tells you how long it's been out. But it has been re-released a few times.
I am very behind the curve.
But as you could see, I pulled up the window, and that game was received really well. Metacritic, I think it had it all of a 90, and then a lot of people had it reviewed a 8 or 9 out of 10. So it is a very highly reviewed game.
Yeah.
And that is a side scroller, like Metrovania style game, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I played it back in the day. I actually think I bought it at one point on the 360 store. So I'd have to go back and see if it's on my account somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think I bought it on PlayStation. I think that's where I have it actually. So, all right, cool. Well, yeah. So Mark of the Ninja, if you haven't checked it out and you're looking for just something that's a pretty easy play, that's not going to throw a bunch of stuff at you like Baldur's Gate. However, I will say, when you're ready to start a Baldur's Gate campaign, holler at your boy, because by the time I got to play that game, all my friends had already played it. So I want to play through a playthrough, but I would prefer to play through with someone also.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds great.
My game will be Dildo Baggins. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So for my pick of the week, it's actually a website. It's actually a place. So I'd mentioned earlier, everybody knows about Steam. Everybody knows about a good Steam sale. They usually have a summer sale, a spring sale, and I think a winter sale. Mm-hmm. I know they definitely have a summer and a winter sale. Spring sale I may have just made up. I'm not sure. But the one that I wanted to talk about that is a website called Fanatical. So with this, it's a website. They run all kinds of different deals. Sometimes they'll do it completely on developers. So they have a sale on just Capcom. So you can go here, and if you missed out on playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you can get the Infinite Edition for like $10 instead of 60.
Oh my God, yeah.
But they have all kinds of different bundles. So obviously, if you want to do, so I went on and bought. So I've been wanting to play forever Sonic Frontiers, which is the first open world Sonic game that plays more like an RPG versus like anything else.
Interesting.
And they had it on sale for, of course, if you played any of the Ace Attorney games or anything like that, they had this game, and this game doesn't go on sale very often on Steam right now. It's $60.
Oh shit!
But I picked up the deluxe for $22, nice. And it's all redeemable. It's just a Steam code, so you just redeem it through Steam, just like anything else. But yeah, it's an open world Sonic game. And I'm really excited to play this game. I've heard great things about it, and I'm really stoked to play it because I was looking for something to play on my computer, but also that plays really well on my Legion Go, so I can play something on the go. Because I love playing Elden Ring on my big PC. However, playing it on handheld is a little overwhelming sometimes based on everything you got going on.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I really like, if you keep flipping through here, obviously, you can buy mystery bundles. So for $5, you get just random, it's almost like a grab bag.
Yeah.
So like as an example, I bought so today. So you can go in here and you can also build your own custom bundles as well. So the more games you add, the cheaper you get them per game. And some of these games, like I bought this game today. If you buy it off Steam right now, it's $20. But I bought this game. It's called Streets of Rogue. I think it's kind of like a play on the old Streets of Rage games, but it's a roguelike. So it's like a top roguelike game.
Yeah.
But anyways, I bought these 3 games here. And as you can tell, like this is $40 on Steam right now. This is $20. I think I paid $7 for all 3. Oh, and I bought this one here. I bought all 4 of these games for less than, so if you hit add to bundle. Yeah, I paid $8.99 for all 4 of those games. Yeah. And they switch this stuff out all the time.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great website. So if you're ever, and then you can get, I've done this more times than I can count. I bought 10 random keys for $8, and some of the games I've got from here, like keep in mind, like 50% of what you get is probably stuff you might never ever play. Yeah. But I've gotten some $40 or $50 games out of these little mystery bundles here.
Wow, nice.
It's kind of fun. It's almost kind of like you're getting a scratch off, like trying to see what you get. but it's
It's
really cool.
definitely
And
a
it's,
gamble.
yeah, and it's not shady. That's the thing about it. It's like it's some of these places you try to buy seat. Look, you can buy Skyrim on PC for $6.79.
Oh, shit. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes they'll run sales where like today, for instance, like I spent $12, so they gave me a free mystery key. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
wow.
So like, yeah, so like they'll run different promos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, and the cool thing about it is it's not just video game bundles. Like if you look like here, for instance, like you can get all these Star Wars games here.
Oh my
You talked
God.
about Knights of the Old Republic. They have Knights of the Old Republic 1, 2. They have the old Battlefront on PC that you can get. You literally get all these games
He got
for
Republic
$20.
Commando.
Yeah, for $20, you get
Oh
all
my
of them.
God. Okay,
So,
that is
these would
wild.
run great on your PC because they're all older games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do not have the most like hardcore powerful machine, so it can do old games pretty well though. Oh
Yeah,
my God, and they got Star Wars Starfighter. These are some of my favorite games ever.
yeah, and they got them. But what I was gonna say is they also have book bundles, so you
Okay.
can go here and you can actually get bundles of digital books as well. You
Oh,
probably hear my
really?
dog.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they even have software bundles. They have all kinds of different bundles. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and this one right here, like, and some of them you may not even see, so you have to go to like look at all bundles. But
Yeah.
sometimes they'll be themed, right? So like build your summer bundle. So you go here and they'll be like, in some games you may like you may not like, but they make it very apparent. So like as an example, like if you click on a game,
Hmm.
you can watch the video right from here. If you want to
Mm.
see it on Steam, you
Mhm.
click view on Steam, and then it'll take you to actual Steam's page so you can read their reviews as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, look down here. If you spend $12, you get a free bonus pinata, so you get a free random game. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah,
does sound
so
cool. I've
definitely
never
worth
heard of that
checking
before.
out. Unfortunately, it's all PC stuff. So if you don't
Mhm.
play on PC, you might not find value in it, but it's pretty cool. I thought this was super interesting because this stuff here will actually teach you how to read Japanese. Or there was a game bundle where
Really?
the game was specifically designed to teach you how to speak intro to Japanese. And
Whoa.
that sounds cool.
Yeah, that does
Um,
sound cool.
yeah. But then like if you're into that big thing where you're looking for like, and a lot of these are indie games, which is what I'm down for. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like as an example, like Call of the Sea is a really cool indie game that I've played before. Um, and then sometimes, and this is one of the ones where the more you add, the more you save. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
I'll definitely
anyways,
check that out.
yeah. All right. So with
That's a
that
good
being
tip.
said, that was Fanatical. You can check that out. I'll have that in the descriptions of the podcast notes as well, along with Nick's recommendation, Mark of the Ninja. So, anything else you want to add before we close out?
I don't think so. I've had a lot of
I hope,
fun. I'm very grateful to have been invited on.
yeah, I hope this wasn't too painful for you or for our listeners.
Really, they're the victims here. What few remain?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on. I know it was kind of because I know that you had. Nope, did not mean to do that. Just kidding. I was jumping the gun there. That was embarrassing. But what I was going to say is I know that we had mentioned about having you on, and I feel like it probably happened a little quicker than you thought it was going to happen. But it just so happened that Justin couldn't record, and I thought, you know what? Let's just see how it goes. So,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, and who's to say, if we get a ton of reviews saying this was the worst guy never have him on here again, then this will be the last and only. But you know what?
Yeah. I'll shed my tears and I'll move on, and I'll pretend like I'm over it. I won't be, but you won't know.
Just anytime I'll see you in person, you'll just be a little bit more colder and a little bit more distant. I get it.
It's a defense mechanism, okay?
Yeah,
I need to.
as it should be. But well, anyways, I want to thank you again for being on. I felt it was a great conversation, great topic. This is probably one of the longer episodes that we've had.
Oh shit.
but it's been great dialogue. We're going on the 2 hour and 8 minute mark, which is which is hard to believe, but it's really, it was really good conversation. Plus, I felt like it was a little bit about a trip down memory lane for the both of us, which is always good to revisit. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a couple call to actions for our listeners and viewers. Make sure you like, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you prefer listening to. You can also see us on YouTube if you want to check us out in video format. And then make sure that you share us with a friend, and also review and like. It helps with the algorithms as well. But once again, Nick, thank you for coming on and treating us with your sweet, sweet present. But until next time, catch you on the next one. Peace.